a dark, silent void. But in a moment, like a breath out of the emptiness, a primal force began to stir. Suddenly, in an endless explosion, the vast universe burst into a grand display of stars, suns, and worlds. From the vapors of such a world sprang human life, like a million shooting stars, and like the endless spray of the sea as it strikes the rocks, each human life bursts forth and returns to its source over and over again. In the time it takes to watch this program, 20,640 new lives will begin, and 6,960 lives will reach their end. And as much as we wish to deny it, each of us will, in our measured time, know the end, called death. Poets philosophize about it. Medicine attempts to postpone it. Religion tries to soften it, but it still remains as inevitable as tomorrow's sunrise. This is a most unusual but factual account of my attempt to uncover the deepest mysteries that surround death, the ultimate mystery. I see the world around me with different eyes than most people. My father was that way too. He looked deeper than the surface. He was never satisfied. I used to enjoy traveling these roads with him, all through Mexico. He was a photographer too, a very good one, earned his living that way. There was one photo, it fascinated me. I looked at it and thought about the man and who he was and how his life ended. It was in the Pacific that I first really saw death for myself. I too became a photojournalist. Pictures are one thing, but it's different to see it right in front of your own eyes. What was the feeling? What was that last moment like? It makes you wonder what it's all about. You know, I haven't thought much about death in the past years, but an incident took place that gave me no choice but to question it all over again. It was while a friend and I were on a safari last year. Our vehicle had gone out of control. It was happening to me. It was strange, as if I was witnessing my own death. The experience changed me. I came through it. I had been around death, but now I knew it firsthand. And the friend that was with me, he didn't come back. I'm on my way to the cemetery here in Guanajuato, Mexico. I am here to meet the caretaker who's going to show me the famous mummies. Why are we so ignorant? Blindly accepting the idea of death, being stuck in a box to rot in the ground. What is that silent conspiracy of nature that keeps us from knowing what it's all about? I guess this is one of those shallow graves that they put the poor in. If they can't pay their perpetuity, they dig them up in 5 years, and they're made to stand against a wall. I had long heard about the mummies here in Guanajuato, Mexico. Bodies that look as if they were frozen at the moment of death. They say you can almost feel what these people were going through in their final moments. We all fear death because it is the unknown. But I feel if I could look at it, just get close to it, try to understand it more, maybe then the fear would vanish. And that's why I'm here in Mexico, to see death itself, face to face.
You are the American that wanted to see the mummies?
Yes.
Okay, follow me. Now let me explain you about these mummies. These mummies that you see here, they have been on display here because their relatives, they couldn't afford to pay the perpetual care for them. So after 5 years, when they had been exhumed, they were brought here.
I see.
I remember when, well, by accident, I come in to the cemetery and I see when the caretakers, they are taking the bodies out of the graves, and I have got closer to the coffins, and I have seen how they open the coffins. They take the petrified people out. They have to take the bodies, the clothes off. They have to do some disinfectation to these people.
Tell me, what do their faces look like?
Oh, well, they are pretty much the same as you see here, as you see them here. The men have hair, the eyebrows. You can see the mustache and the beard of these people.
I understand that the hair and the nails on the bodies actually grow after they're buried.
This is also what I have heard about it. I have heard that their hair keeps growing, as well as their fingernails. I remember about a poor lady, a friend of mine who was buried alive by mistake. This lady was buried in a state of coma, and when she was exhumed 5 years later, she was found from upside down. She turned over herself, so we guess that she was buried alive. And I remember also this woman, friend of mine, you see, this poor lady died during her pregnancy. You can see here the shape of the baby on her stomach.
I see. Have they been of any help to you in thinking about life after death?
Well, I have come to the conclusion that death is the beginning of a new life. We don't have to worry anymore about pains, just about nothing.
What about these people here?
Well, you know, these people, this is just material. These are not anymore human beings. Their souls, I guess, they are resting forever.
Are you afraid of the bodies?
No, oh no. I'm used to them.
Festival of the Dead. It's interesting to watch. I can't help it, but as I wander through their cemetery, I think about how these people in a different country are preoccupied with the dead and their relatives and paying homage to them. Everywhere you look, men and women and children lighting candles to the ancestors who died before them, hoping that someday in the future their ancestors would do the same for them. As I return home to Los Angeles, I keep thinking about what I'd seen in those faces in Mexico. I felt there was something they wanted to tell me, and they couldn't. There must be an answer somewhere. That's why I'm meeting Mary. She's a good psychologist who knows the subject pretty well.
I've been thinking about what you said, and I think it's natural to worry about dying. Everyone does at one time or another, especially after a near-death experience or the death of a friend.
Are you saying don't think about it and it'll just go away?
Naturally, it won't go away, but as long as you dwell on it, you're really avoiding living.
Now, hang on a damn minute. As a professional, what do you tell people when they ask you about it?
That's too philosophical. I really don't deal with those kind of questions. I'd refer them to their priest if they had one.
Everyone has an opinion, right? But who in the hell really knows? I mean, isn't it amazing?
You should talk to someone who deals with the subject, like Dr. Armstrong.
Who's he?
Well, he was Surgeon General of the Air Force, father of space medicine, and directed a lot of research while he was head of the Aeromedical Research Laboratory. He spent a lifetime studying death and is now retired down in Texas.
Is death a horrible or painful experience?
No, quite to the contrary. It's never distressful in any way, and in some cases it is rather a pleasant experience. The reason for that is that during the last stages of a fatal illness, the vital centers of the body begin to fail, particularly the cardiovascular system and the respiratory system, so that you begin to get a lack of oxygen to the body tissues. And when that occurs, and that always occurs in the final stages of dying, the effect is just the same as you would get from the use of morphine, sedatives, and all of the different types of drugs that are used to kill pain and relieve anxiety.
Interesting. Any evidence that anything continues after death?
That question has been investigated over the centuries by numerous scientists, and in no case has it ever been proven that there is life after death. But on the contrary, it's never been proven that there isn't life after death.
Didn't the ancients think a lot about death and the life after?
They discussed it openly and freely, and made various attempts to ease the situation. And for example, the Old Testament mentions death twice as often as life. The Hindu Vedas were devoted almost entirely to the subject of death. Much of the ancient Chinese literature also. And the Egyptian Book of the Dead consists of 166 chapters and was probably one of the most prominent writings of their time. I have a couple of books on the subject here that this is the Egyptian Book of the Dead and the Tibetan Book of the Dead, and you can take these with you if you would like. I'll just leave them there and you can take them when you leave.
Thanks. Is there any investigation going on related to after-death experiences?
There are several studies underway based primarily on the fact that a considerable number of people who have been near death have had dreamlike visions, and in some cases that has been thought possibly to be proof of life after death.
You've been very helpful, Doctor. Thank you. I'm on my way to Cairo to look into what the ancients taught.
Oh, yes. I think Egypt is the logical place because our earliest information on writings on the question of death came from Egypt.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Going to Paris?
To Paris and then on to Cairo.
Okay.
How long is that flight to Paris?
The flight is 10 hours, and you'll stay in Paris overnight, and the flight leaves to Cairo on the next day at 12:30. You arrive at 6:30 Paris time.
Very good.
Yeah, can I have your bags over here, please?
Yes.
Okay. And I guess passport is okay.
Very good.
Boarding is at gate 28 and it starts at 9:30. I give you a non-smoking aisle seat, sir.
Thank you very much.
Here's your boarding card.
Thank you.
Have a nice flight, sir.
I hope to. In 2 days, I'll be in Cairo. I hope that maybe there, I'll find some answers to these questions that obsess me.
Would you like a drink before dinner?
A martini, thank you.
Martini? And you, madam?
I'd like a glass of red Bordeaux wine, please. Will we be staying over in Paris?
No, just a stopover. I'm going to Cairo and then Bombay.
Oh, that's very interesting. Business or pleasure?
Neither one. Pursuing an interest. The famous ancient city of Cairo. Here is one of the oldest civilizations on Earth. Just let me off at the lobby. I'll get the luggage later. Thank you. The last time I was in Egypt was to cover the Big Three conference during World War II. I can still see them sitting right over there. It was a big moment. They were great men. I wonder where they are now. The ancient Egyptians were preoccupied with death and immortality. There were mystic rites and practices dealing with it. I want to see the Sphinx before it gets too dark. You have seen them all, come and go. Alexander the Great, Napoleon, Churchill. If you are as wise as they say, tell me, what is the mystery of death?
This is the Great Sphinx of Giza, 5,000 years old. It knows the answers to all the mysteries. Want to buy a souvenir?
How beautiful and peaceful this Muhammad Ali Mosque is. My God, magnificent. What a contrast, this old, bizarre section of Cairo. Some of these shops go back centuries. It looks like, well, like time stands still. Want to buy a scarab? I telephoned Dr. Asherley, the director of the Cairo Museum. I'm to meet him at 2 p.m.
Dr. Asherley, hello. I'm interested in what you know about the ancient beliefs.
They had a very strong belief of life after death, that every one of them after dying, that he will go either up to heaven to join Osiris, or to join the god Ra at daytime, and then maybe at night they will return back to their tombs, or that they might spend all their life after dying with Osiris in paradise.
Interesting. Can we go inside and look?
Oh yes, please. In one of the rooms we have all the royal mummies from the New Kingdom.
Did they believe the body had a soul?
Yes. They believed in two souls to take care of the body. The cow would be there all the time during his lifetime, and the Ba would appear after death. The Ba, it was a bird with the head of a man, the deceased himself.
What about mummification?
Well, they started mummification by opening the body in the middle, taking out all things that would deteriorate, the liver, the kidneys, and the heart even, and the brain. They removed the brain through the nose. And after washing and cleaning the heart, they used to put it again in the body. And then after that, start to clean the body with solutions and to put it in solutions to keep it as intact as long as possible.
To prepare for a judgment?
Yes, there was always a judgment after death. And the heart was weighed in a balance and to see if it's lighter or heavier than a feather.
Was there a fire?
There was a fire for purification.
Then they believed in a kind of hell?
Yes, because if one do something wrong, if he's doing wrong in his life, then he would go to hell. But if he has done a little evil, then he should be purified by this fire, even before going to paradise.
Dr. Youssef is going to show me the Pharaoh's tombs.
Oh yes, Dr. Youssef Francis. You know, he has spent some years on the western side of Luxor.
Mm-hmm. I'd like to see the mummies of the pharaohs.
Oh, please do. You just go up these steps.
Thank you. I've read a lot about them. Well, great Pharaoh, did you ever think you'd end up like this on display?
So, this is Luxor. I'm looking forward to meeting Yosef here. It's quite a sight seeing this 4,000-year-old temple, the place where those ancient pharaohs actually walked, held their celebrations. You can almost feel their ghostly presence wherever you look. You must be Yosef.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. I'm glad to see you.
I'm glad to see you too.
Are you going to show me around?
Yes, I would suggest if we come together and see some of these beautiful, fantastic pieces of eternal work. It is called the Temple of Temples, the rise of the sun. And rising of the sun is the rising of the day. It means this is the temple of eternity, of life. Egyptians come here because they like life. They like being here.
So they were interested in immortality and they wanted to live after death.
Yes, because they were very interested in life. They worship life, they adore life, they enjoy life. And that's why they want to come back to life and in the same body, in the same figure, the same person. An Egyptian who lived and who wanted to come back knew beforehand that he should live properly to come back as a proper person, as a proper soul.
So it was everybody, not just the pharaohs.
Everybody, a king, an ordinary man, is interested to come back to life.
In other words, they all believed in a life after death.
Yes, they believed very much in life after death. When we go to the other side of the Nile, when we go to Habu, and we meet there face to face with what the Egyptians have celebrated and done to live this other life, we'll understand it.
Looking forward to it.
We spent here 2 years studying antiquities, living with life and also living with death. Life in this bank and death in the Valley of the Kings.
My God, this is wonderful, marvelous, fantastic, because Yesterday, I saw the pharaoh's mummies. Tomorrow I will finally see the ancient tombs where they came from. It's a beautiful morning to cross the Great Nile River. Nice, cool. In an hour, I'll be in the heat of the Valley of the Kings, the Valley of Death. There stand the great Colossus statues, as if they are guarding through eternity the tombs of the pharaohs I am about to see.
My name is Yahya Aid, the inspector of the West Bank in Luxor. Now we are going to see the tomb of Tutankhamun. The tomb was covered by the debris from the tomb of Ramses VI. For this reason, the tomb was far from the hands of robbers for a long time.
In other words, the material that came down, is that it?
Yes, the debris which was coming out from the next tomb, which we shall go later, was covering all this place. All above, it was above the tomb of Tutankhamun.
Is Tutankhamun inside?
Yes, let's go inside. And we like to explain this scene. This is the only scene which is representing the funeral procession for the mummy of the king itself, which is starting from the Nile to the grave here, or to the king's valley, and is dragged by the family and the friends of the deceased.
In that tomb, is that really Tutankhamun inside there?
Yes, this is the sarcophage of Tutankhamun, and the mummy is still inside.
Is this the only pharaoh still inside its tomb?
I think so. This is the only mummy, but it's in a very bad condition, and they prefer to leave it here.
What about those monkeys?
The baboons here, the 12 baboons, or the 12 monkeys, is representing the 12 hours of the night, and maybe they are representing the guardian of the first gate in the second world, or in the underworld.
I see. And what about that scene over there?
This scene representing a famous rite which we call the rite of opening of the mouth by the high priest of Osiris.
What's it mean?
This rite means that the deceased allowed to eat and drink and to enjoy his usual life in the second life, or in the underworld, as he was in the first life.
Can we see anything that shows the afterlife?
Yes, I think we can see that it's represented in the tomb of Ramses VI upstairs. Now we are in the burial chamber of the tomb of the King Ramses VI, which was including the mummy inside the sarcophage, which is broken or destroyed now by the robbers of the ancient Egyptian times.
What's on the ceiling?
We have here a very important scene for the goddess Nut, goddess of the sky, and it's represented two times, one for the day and the second for the night. And for this reason, we find the sun disk is going through the body of the goddess itself.
I see. What do they think happened after death?
This is very important. You must cross these 12 gates in these 12 hours in the night, in the same day which you are buried in the tomb, till he arrived to the judgment hall of in front of the god Osiris. The god must decide if this man is a good one or an evil one. If he is a good man, he must be exported to the paradise or the Yaru fields, which he can cultivate the land and enjoy his time in a place full of fruits and all kinds of food and drinking.
What happens if you didn't live an honest or good life?
Then you will be destroyed by this animal which is called the Amid. And then you live in your tomb all the time without food, without drinking, in dark life. In the noble tombs we can see more details. This one of the examples of the noble tombs. And in this scene we find the crossing of the Nile with the mummy of the deceased. Here is the mummy and here is the canopic jars. This is the arrival of the sarcophag, and it's carried on the shoulders by the friends of the deceased. This is the scene of the judgment scene. After burying the deceased and crossing these gates which we discussed, the deceased arrived to the court of justice in front of the god Amun. Here is the deceased Kiki and his wife is entering the hall. Now they are weighing the heart of the deceased, and if the heart is heavy, he will be a good man and he must go to the paradise. If he is a bad one and his heart is not heavy, this strange animal, he will attack him. Now Horus is introducing the deceased and wife to declare the result in front of the god Osiris.
Thank you very much. I know it's getting late.
Not at all.
And I thank you for all the time you spent with me. There's a lot to be learned here.
Yeah.
I keep seeing the reoccurring theme of life in the hereafter. If only there was a way to prove it once and for all. India. Here the people, all the people, believe in the continuation of life after death, a reincarnation of the individual soul. You know, the teachings in the Vedas, like the ancient Egyptians, tell similar stories about preparing for life after death. Who's to say that they're wrong? I'm on my way to meet a Swami, Baba Muktananda, one of India's most revered holy men. I had talked to several Americans that made the long journey, and they told me how much they enjoyed being in his presence. Greetings, Baba. Greetings. I've heard that you've had experiences which would indicate life after death. Would you share some of that with me?
हमको अभी जो एक हार्ट अटैक हुआ था उसमें हमें तो पूरा मौत का अनुभूति हुआ हमको.
A while ago, I had a heart attack. In that heart attack, I experienced my death completely.
बहुत बड़ा मेजर था.
It was a massive heart attack.
और ये अटैक हो के गिर पड़ा.
After the heart attack, I just fell down.
हमको गिर पड़े तक याद है.
I remember that I did fall down.
फिर 11 डॉक्टर लोग भारी सर्जन आके खड़े हुए मर गए वो.
Later, 11 great surgeons, specialists were standing by, and they said I died.
परंतु किसी एक देश में हम ऐसा चले गए.
I entered into a different space.
वहाँ मेरे गुरु महाराज जी.
There, my guru was there.
वो 2 घंटे मेरे से बात की.
He spoke to me for 2 hours.
2 घंटे तक डॉक्टर लोग सब ऐसा करके देखते थे क्या हुआ. इतना बड़ा एक अच्छा हुआ. गति क्या हुआ.
For 2 hours, all the doctors were dejected. They couldn't understand what happened to this good Swami.
2 घंटे के बाद बाबा जी बोले कुछ नहीं जाओ ये हमको पूरा स्मृति है वो लोक से.
After 2 hours, in the space where I was, my Babaji told me, go. Nothing is going to go wrong.
एकदम आंखें खोल के देखता सब लाइन में डॉक्टर लोग बड़ा खड़ा है.
As I opened my eyes, I saw that all the doctors were standing in line.
हम देख के आशा उसको.
I looked at them and smiled.
अभी तुम लोग भोजन करो बोलकर सो गए.
I told them, go for lunch, and I went back to sleep.
दूसरा दिन उल्टा तो कुछ नहीं.
The second I woke up, nothing was wrong.
हमारे सब मरे हुए कई आदमी हम उधर पहचाना उधर मिले हमको.
In the world of death, I saw my relatives. I saw people who I knew.
वो उनसे भी सिद्ध होता कि मृत्यु है, मृत्यु के बाद जन्म भी.
From this, it is very certain death does exist. After death, there is life.
वस्तुतः मृत्यु निद्रा से एक बहुत बड़ा अवस्था नहीं है.
Death is no greater than the state of sleep. However, after death, man is born again.
और जन्म बाद पुनः अवश्य एक दिन मरता.
After he is born, certainly he dies one day.
मगर ये केवल शरीर के लिए है, आत्मा के लिए नहीं.
This is restricted to this body, not to the self.
अभी कल का कपड़े बदल के आज दूसरा कपड़े पहने हैं हम.
Yesterday I wore other outfit and today I'm wearing different clothes.
कल का कपड़े बदल दिया.
I changed yesterday's clothes.
ये दूसरा है आज का.
Today they are different.
इतना ही है मौत. कल का शरीर जुना बदल देना और नवा शरीर प्राप्ति करना.
This is how death is. Today you have this body, and the next day you have a different body when you're reborn.
हाँ.
Can the soul be seen departing from the body?
कुछ अच्छा प्रकार से जिसका मृत्यु होता वो कुछ देख सकता. उसका आत्मा को देख सकता मनुष्य.
If a person dies very beautifully, then the soul is seen when his body dies.
हाँ, मृत्यु जाते भगत जीवात्मा एक ही स्थान से जाता नहीं.
It's not that when the body dies, the soul, or the individual soul, leaves the body from one place.
किसका आँखी से चले जाता, आँखी का द्वार निकाल जाता आत्मा.
Sometimes the soul leaves through the eyes.
इसका नाक के द्वार निकाल जाता.
Sometimes through the nose.
इसका मुंह के द्वार निकाल जाता.
Sometimes through the mouth. For this reason, sometimes you see the dead bodies having their mouths wide open.
जो आँखी से निकाल जाता वो बड़े पुण्यात्मा.
If the soul leaves through the eyes, then that means that person is very virtuous.
उनके लिए एक शरीर मिलता, महाकरण शरीर. वो शरीर तिल का बिंदु इतना है, वो बिंदु द्वारा नीला चमकते ऐसे जाता तो हम लोग देख सकते. ऐसा चले जाता.
The soul has a beautiful body, which is also called supracausal body, and it is of the color of the blue, and it appears as a blue dot. It is the size of the sesame seed, and you see the soul departing in that body, in that vehicle.
हम लोग देखा ऐसा.
I have seen it.
I thank you for your time, Baba. I found everything you said very interesting. In a few days, I'm returning to America. Thank you again, and I hope I can talk to you again someday.
Tata.
I just want to relax a few days here in Paris before going home. Looking around at Charles de Gaulle Airport makes me think, yeah, we've come a long way since the ancient Egyptians. Or have we? With all our modern, wondrous engineering and technology. And yet, our understanding of life and death seems no further along. You know, Muktananda gave me a new way of looking at life. Maybe we don't really die, just our bodies. I get so tired thinking about it. I think I'm just gonna sit back and forget about it for a few days and enjoy Paris. The Champs-Élysées, the black coffee with Armagnac. These people know how to live. The Parisians, Paris, what a beautiful place. What a great place to, well, just relax and not think about death anymore.
Well, how's the world traveler?
Fine. Well, I'm back in one piece anyway.
Did you find the answer to immortality?
Yes and no. Not yet. I feel tired.
You look tired. I'm worried about you.
Don't worry, I'll be all right. There's so much.
It's difficult. When someone's looking for answers like you are, it is difficult. But you know, you got me interested in the whole subject. Have you heard of Dr. Rawlings? He has a cardiac diagnostic clinic in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Here's his book, Beyond Death's Door.
I've heard of him. Go on.
Well, as you'll see, he's a medical doctor who's had personal experiences with patients who were pronounced clinically dead and come back to life to tell of their experience. Interesting?
Very. Armstrong mentioned things like that. You know anything about after-death experiences?
I understand some reported they felt themselves racing through a black tunnel toward some benevolent bright light.
Now, that's the kind of thing I've been looking for. What else did you find?
Well, they've reported seeing their own body, as if they were spectators, lying dead with doctors and people around.
You know, I had the same experience after my accident. During the operation, I felt as though I was watching it all going on. Do you know Dr. Rawlings?
I'll arrange a meeting for you.
I'd love you for it forever, honey. Small world. You talk about a small world. I am getting around. Last week, India. This week, I'm in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Yeah, well, if he looked like he had trouble on the lidocaine, you better change him over if he's still got a lot of extra systems. Come in. Been looking for you. Have a seat over there.
Thank you.
And then call me back as soon as you get another cardiogram, and we'll make a comparison to see if he's had any more damage. See if you do that, and then let me know when you get it. Thank you. Right, thanks. Good to see you. Been looking for you. They said you had some questions for me. Be glad to answer them.
Doctor, I was wondering, how did you get interested in the after-death experience?
I became interested because I teach for the Heart Association. I'm on the national teaching faculty going around to different medical schools setting up programs for doctors. And in this program, the basic part is CPR, how to resuscitate people, bring them back alive with your bare hands. And in this teaching, as a side event, an accident, we started observing these patients that say they've had an experience in a life beyond. I didn't believe it. I've never seen a dead body with a spirit hanging around it, but they tell me it was true, so I started paying attention.
What exactly were these experiences patients were having?
The patient himself will start coming around after you restore his own heartbeat, his own breathing, and it may take a few minutes, may take several hours. And about 20% of them will volunteer and experience something like this. Doctor, I did feel myself die. Right after I got that crushing pain I felt, my heart stopped. And then it didn't hurt anymore. I felt great. The moment of death, they'll usually describe as painless. And then I got out of my body, I sat up, I walked around the room, and then I got back into one corner of the room, floating sensation, never felt better in my life. And there I saw two doctors come in the room, another nurse came in, she had earrings on, or whatever happens, you'll recall and reconstruct it later, and you'll see it's exactly so, whatever the patient recalled. And it's not my observation, several doctors over the nation have collected cases like this. And then the same sequence. After the recall doctor, I left the room and went to this other world, leaving this world through a tunnel or some tubular conveyance, usually black, can be white, traveling at high speed, tumbling head over heel. Hands and feet didn't touch the walls, not afraid of falling, and at the far end I saw this little light get bigger and bigger, and as I exited the tunnel I came into this beautiful environment. The sun was, this light looked like the sun, but it wasn't the sun. I couldn't tell where it was coming from. And in this light was a beautiful environment, colors intense, maybe a mountainside. In this case I have in mind was a pasture, intense green colors sloping uphill, and there he had met people that died before. Who did they meet? Usually their parents. They might be 80 years old if they died, and their parents. Why? I don't know.
Are all these experiences pleasant?
No.
Do some maybe go to a different place?
Yes. They'll leave the body, leave the room, and instead of exiting into this bright light, it is this outer darkness or various, they'll find difficult explanation. Words are difficult to describe. They'll see not contemplated things of hell like Dachau ovens that you'd expect, like Dante's Inferno. You would, some of them have layers of hell where one layer attacks another layer, and they say it's hell or hell-like experience. Another one where the lake of fire that's so long or wide you can't see from one end to the other, lined by naked bodies or people partially clothed, and slave drivers, people with useless loads. Not necessarily, and none of them saw Satan or the devil with horn and pitchfork.
Why is it we only hear about experiences of paradise?
Most of the doctors that have published material on this were not resuscitating the patients that they reported. And if you do it immediately, before the patient can hide or sublimate in their memory painful experiences, and these are very painful, you'll catch the hell-like experiences, which have so far been discarded or not observed.
You know, even the Swami in India described a similar thing. They teach their students to expect this when they die.
Yes, it's interesting from the Hindu faith, the Egyptian backgrounds, back to the American Indian culture. Some of the African tribes as well have similar life after death predictions, but it's only in our lifetime, yours and mine, that resuscitation has gotten so good that we have a whole new population to deal with. Now we have a whole group of people that say they've been there. This is the first glimpse we've had beyond death's door.
Could you arrange for me to interview a few patients that have had these experiences?
Oh, I'll be glad to. Those that are good cases will volunteer. They want to tell people. Those that are bad cases will tell nobody, unless they've had a subsequent good experience or some conversion mechanism where they're no longer afraid of what they saw, where they're assured they won't go back to the hell-like experience. So yes, we have both types we can have you interview. Most people have a fear of dying, naturally. Maybe we all ought to have more of a fear of judgment that we don't hear expressed. People are afraid of death, but death is painless. Then maybe we should be afraid of life after death if there's a good place and a bad place like these patients say. By the way, in here, Mr. Robert Smith is our first patient. I'll be back after making rounds.
Hi. Dr. Allan said I could come in and see you.
Yes, I was expecting you.
Mind if I ask you some questions?
Have a seat. Be glad to answer them.
What about these experiences that you had that Dr. Rawlings was telling me about?
Well, I came in the hospital in '76 for heart surgery. I had a triple bypass. During this time, I don't remember when or where, but whether it was a clinical death, I died, the doctors told my wife and family.
What happened to you then?
I went to hell. It was a very big dark room, like a tunnel light, and I was a-fighting and a-begging. It was awful. It was just hell, and these better places for a person. I never want to go there again. It's still, I still see it occasionally now, and it'll always, I guess, remain with me.
What did you see?
Well, there were people there like myself. They were tied and bound down, and they were begging and screaming. and wanting to get out of there, not go through those doors. And where those doors led, I can't say.
Get out of where? What were these people like?
They were dressed in dark uniforms, just normally people with no smile, or just walking around and pushing those guys down as their turn come, I guess you'd call it.
Did they talk to you?
Only thing they said to me is that we'll get you later.
Did the experience change you?
Well, I feel that the Lord left me here for judgment later, that he gave me another chance to straighten my life up. And later, which I don't dread death at all. I'm ready anytime. It doesn't bother me at all to think about it. But I'm sure that someday I will stand judgment, that I've got a better place waiting for me when that time comes.
It's very interesting. I'm glad you shared the experience with me.
I appreciate you coming over. My friend wanted to interview you, ask you a few questions. This is Mr. Harry Irwin will answer your questions. I have to go and make some rounds right now, so I'm going to leave you two together.
All right.
All right.
Thank you very much.
What was your experience?
Well, I was operated on March 31st, and on the 5th of April of the 78, I was lying in my bed, and all of a sudden I just couldn't get my breath, and I felt it getting shorter and shorter. And the nurse came in at 6 o'clock to give me some medicine, and she was pouring it through a tube into my nose and down into my stomach, and it wouldn't go down. The foam was coming up so high. And so she just laid the tube down on my throat, on my chest, and walked out. And after she left, I just couldn't breathe anymore. I couldn't get any more air. And I began to feel like I was floating. Then all of a sudden the room became real bright. And when it became bright, I looked around to see what was happening. And I saw my body lying over on the bed. And then I passed right through the wall of the hospital into complete darkness.
You actually felt you did that?
I felt going through the wall of the hospital. And I knew that that wall was behind me after I got out into the darkness. I left the light of the room into that darkness and started up with some lights that were flashing and going up. And then just a few seconds, I broke through the darkness into the light, a beautiful light with a whole lot of people that I knew. My father and mother who have gone on, I met them. I met our daughter that had gone on and talked. I wanted to talk to them, but I couldn't get them to understand me. I saw on the side one that seemed to have in control. And he turned around, and I recognized it as Jesus Christ. And when I saw him, he said that I would have to come back into my body because he had promised my wife in 3 weeks before the operation that the sickness wasn't unto death. And I asked him to please let me stay because I had no pain. I was just in perfect peace. I was all right in every way. I wasn't anything hurting. And I could talk, and I didn't have any trouble at all manipulating my body. But he said I'd have to come back because the promise was made. And I saw him there, and I saw also to one side a body that was strong. And I saw the body take on a shape. And I asked him what that was, and he said that was a body that had been prepared for me, that when I came to keep that body, to stay in heaven, that I'd take on that body. And then I could talk with my friends and my loved ones. But then I had to come back down into the room. And I felt an angel touch me on each side of my elbow and bring me back through that darkness. And I asked what that darkness was, and he said that is the things that bother the body. The sins of this world was the darkness that was around the world. But coming back down through that, I could begin to feel the pain of my throat and my neck and my shoulder. And then the next thing I knew, I was standing in the corner of my room, and I saw the 2 nurses working on me over there and a doctor, and I saw them working on my body.
What do you feel now? Has this changed your attitude toward death?
There's a lot of difference in my life now and before, and I am assured of what is going to happen to me. I know that when I go die again, I'll go through that darkness again, but I won't be afraid to go enter it.
I thank you very much for what you've told me.
Charles, you come in to evaluate this chest pain he'd get on exertion at home. When he'd race the heart, he'd get some pain. We wanted to make sure it was heart, so we hook him up to a treadmill while he's hooked to the cardiogram. If the EKG goes haywire, it's heart. If it doesn't, it's not. Instead of just going haywire, as he said very inconsiderately, he dropped dead. He keeled over, just like many people will. Heart stopped, breathing stopped, sputtering, turned blue, convulsed a little bit. Doesn't feel the convulsion, he never did, when I asked him. And then we'd start him up again, and each time we'd stop, he'd convulse, die once more, and he'd complain about being in hell.
So you died several times. What happened then?
I could see what was going on. I could hear Dr. Rollins and see him say, Pam, give me a reading on the EKG machine. I can't see the reading. And
this was while you were gone on the floor,
yes,
eyes closed.
And it was, she would say straight line. And I couldn't understand the fact why it could be straight line. I know everything was going on.
Were you apparently dead at that time?
Yes.
Were you observing from a distance?
I felt like I was, I wouldn't say at a distance. I would more or less say I was right. I could see it, but I don't know whether I was over it or under it or beside of it. But I could actually see what was going on. I have heard people say they was hovering over the body. I don't think I was. I think probably standing to one side.
What was the experience you had then that you could see?
I could see all I'm working and calling in code 99, and I went back out from that, from another clinical death. I went into another one from there, and I saw my mother and my stepmother. My mother passed away when I was 15 months old. To my knowledge, I had never seen a photograph of her. My father remarried very shortly into a family that had children, and it wasn't discussed. I mean, more or less, it was something that just never did happen. I knew I had a mother, I knew she passed away, but that was about it. My stepmother passed away in 1960. I saw them both, recognized them. And people say, well, how could you recognize your stepmother your mother, if you never did see a photograph of her from 15 months old? I was able to pick out her photograph. I had never seen one. An aunt brought me a photograph, and I was able to pick it out among 3 others. There's just no other way to describe it. You had to be where they were.
What is your feeling about after death now?
I feel like possibly, this is just my own idea about the whole situation, is that there's a burden been placed upon me to tell people that there are a life after death, and that you should be prepared for it. I definitely believe death itself is nothing to fear, but possibly judgment would be.
Really nice place for lunch.
It's quite a good-looking joint.
You look excited. What have you found?
I feel I've made some headway.
Before you tell me about it, I'd like you to meet Emile Franchel, a hypnotherapist.
Glad to meet you, sir. I talked to several people that had these experiences, and they all saw similar things, like a bright, luminous light. They all felt out of their body.
Well, people who get hypnotized and go back into what appears to be other lives do report almost precisely the same thing.
What do you mean?
Well, they report these out-of-body experiences of sort of in-between lives, floating.
Sounds interesting.
What do you mean by in-between lives?
Well, when you regress somebody back and they appear to come out in another life, you bring them forward in time, they go through their own death. After that, there's a period waiting from that life to another life. And in that period, they invariably report the same sort of thing, where they are waiting invisible or a cloud or something of the kind.
You mean people actually go back? My God, if that's at all true, it really is evidence of something happening after death.
It sounds fascinating. I wish it were true. But You shouldn't jump to conclusions.
Oh, no, we're not really jumping to conclusions, but, you know, still they come forward, these subjects, with dates and places and times that tie in and correspond correctly.
How do you explain? You mean a prior life?
Well, all of it I can't explain, of course, but nevertheless, that's what happens in many, many cases.
Then there is evidence that life goes on after death.
A lot of people would like to believe it. I would.
It's exciting. I'd like to prove it for myself. If you could regress someone to another life in time and they could give you dates, names, information that wouldn't be possible for them to know, wouldn't that be something?
Emil, do you have anyone who would be a good subject to regress?
Oh, yes, I have many of them. I've got two that I know about. I think you'd find tremendously interesting, this particular couple.
Oh, yes. And, of course, you'll check out the information they give under hypnosis.
Surely, otherwise it wouldn't be any use at all, would it? Okay, supposing I'll try and set up something, say, for next Thursday. How's your schedule for that?
I'm free.
I can't make it this week at all,
sure.
but I'll meet you here for lunch and fill me in then.
Oh, hello, come on in. Why don't you make yourself comfortable in the chair over there? I've been working with this lady for a few minutes now, taking her slowly back in time into her childhood and then into her infancy. All right, let's go ahead and see what we get.
All right, I want you to relax and go deeper and deeper asleep. You're going back in time, backwards to conception, and let your mind continue back in time if you can. If you can sense anything in any way beyond that point of conception, tell me about it.
The cottage.
In the cottage. And you are in the cottage?
Just some cooking over the fire.
You're cooking over the fire. What's your name?
Mary.
Your name is Mary? Do you have a last name?
Marley.
All right, Mary Marley. Where is this cottage?
Was in County Clare.
County Clare?
Yes.
And where is County Clare?
In Ireland.
In Ireland. What year is this? Do you know the year?
1834.
1834. Uh-huh. Is there running water in the house?
Well, no. In the house?
Yes, running water in the house.
If the roof leaks.
If the roof leaks, I see. Do you have a toilet inside the house?
A what?
A lavatory.
The little house.
The little house, I see. And the little house, does it have, is that inside the house or outside?
Inside the house. Of course not.
I see. You wouldn't have one of those inside the house, huh?
You're very strange.
Yes, that's true. All right, are you married, Mary?
No.
I see. Do you have a boyfriend?
Oh, no.
How old are you?
14.
14, I see. Mary Marley, you're going forward in time. Can you go forward to your 21 years of age?
No.
Why is that?
No.
Well, go far forward as you can from 14 years of age, and then tell me about it. What's the matter, Mary?
Fever.
You've got a fever. What happens to you, Mary?
I'm gonna die.
Are you, Mary? Come away from that scene and let's go forward in time. Relax, feeling very much at ease. You're being born. Your name is Patty. You're growing up. And with your friend, Emil Franchel, in his office. In a few moments, when I ask you to awaken, you will be able to do so, and you'll feel quite wonderful.
and you're with your friends, and you're feeling great. Hello.
Hello.
Deeper, deeper, deeper again. Very, very peaceful. Very peaceful indeed. And you will continue going deeper into that state we call sleep. Until finally, when you are fully and deeply asleep, and in that state we know as somnambulism, where you become unconscious, your conscious mind temporarily in an obeyed state, then to signify this, you will open your eyes, and the opening of the eyes will be a locking mechanism. It will lock you into that state until I ask you to awaken. Now you may close your eyes and go even deeper asleep. Okay, I think we have a extreme depth here in this lady because I've worked with her before. And now we're going to go back prior to birth to see what we can find. All right, Beverly, if you let your mind drift back in time to the time of your birth, before then to conception, and let your mind travel back. And if you can travel back and you can see, feel, or sense anything in any way beyond that point of conception, I want you to tell me about it. There's no rush or hurry. You can take all the time you need and be perfectly at ease.
I'm going to begin again.
You're going to begin again. That's good. You look happy about it. What happens? You furrow your brow. Why? Tell me about it.
It's gone.
What's gone?
It didn't last.
You didn't last?
No.
What happened?
I died.
Oh, who were you? Did you have a name? You were annoyed. Why are you annoyed?
Because it was so short.
How long was it?
8 hours.
8 hours. And did you have a name?
It's Baby Jean.
Baby Jean.
Baby Jean.
Don't be worried about that. Come away from that Baby Jean now. Continue backwards in time.
Oh, I'm sick.
You're sick? Who are you?
Oh, I'm so sick.
Come away from that scene then if you feel sick. Now looking back on that scene without becoming involved with it, what was happening?
I had a disease. I had scarlet fever.
Scarlet fever. How old were you when you had this scarlet fever?
I was too old to have scarlet fever. I was old.
I see.
I was very old.
What is your name?
I don't have a name.
Well, right back there when you were sick, what was your name?
My name was Jane.
J-E-A-N?
Yes.
And your last name?
It's MacDonald.
Jean MacDonald.
Yes.
You were very old then. How old is very old?
Oh, I think I was 40.
40?
40-something. 40-something. I was very old.
40-something is very old. All right. Continue back in time. Go away from that scene. Continue back as Jeannie MacDonald. Just continue backwards in time until something else stands out in your mind, and then tell me about it. What is the matter?
Oh, it's Eloise.
What's the matter with Eloise? What's the matter with Eloise? What has happened to Eloise?
She's dead. The horse got her.
The horse got her. Oh, the horse got her. Who is Eloise? Who is Eloise? All right. Come away from that scene now. Let it slip from your mind. Let it slip from your mind. And look back on that scene without becoming involved in that scene and tell me, who was Eloise?
Eloise is my daughter.
Your daughter. And you said under the horse's hooves? What, how did she fall under the hooves?
Oh, she ran into the street.
She ran into the street.
She ran into the street.
Uh-huh. And she ran under the horse, is that it? I see. Well, don't be concerned with that for the moment. Come away from it. Where is this place where Eloise was killed? Where is it?
It's on the main street.
On Main Street. Is it in a place where you live, your town where you live? What is the name of the town?
It's Corning.
Corning? And where is Corning?
Corning is in Ohio.
Uh-huh. Corning, Ohio. Do you know what date it is when Eloise was killed?
Yes.
What date was it?
It was December the 12th.
December 12th? What year?
1898.
1898. I see. All right, Eloise has been killed. You live in that town of Corning.
Yes.
And what is your husband's name?
John.
John. And where does John work?
John works at the stables, at the livery stables.
At the livery stables?
Yes.
Does the livery stables have a name?
Yes.
What is the name of the livery stables?
It's Kincaid.
Kincaid. I see. Do you often go into town?
No, not often.
But you do go into town. Do you know the town very well? Can you describe the town?
Yes.
What does it look like?
Well, it's not a large town. And it has stables, and it has a general store. It has a train.
A train? There's a station there? A railroad station?
There's a depot.
A depot. I see. What was the name of the railroad?
I don't know.
Didn't the cars have a name on the side that went through there?
There's ZZ.
What was that?
There's ZZ.
ZZ? What did that stand for?
I don't know.
What did you used to call it? Or everybody called it?
It's a zigzag.
The zigzag? Looking back at that place, you gave me a date just now, December the 12th, 1898. Do you remember the day of the week that was? All right, don't be concerned about it. Do you know the day of the week it was?
It's Monday.
Monday, December the 12th, 1898. When Eloise was hurt, was she seen by a local doctor?
She wasn't hurt.
She wasn't hurt?
She was killed.
She was killed outright. Was Eloise buried locally?
Yes.
She was buried in a graveyard somewhere. Whereabouts was she buried?
She was buried in the graveyard outside of town.
Was it a church graveyard?
No. No.
Municipal graveyard?
Yes, it was the town municipal
The town?
playground. Yes.
I see.
Yes.
Did Eloise have any friends?
Yes, she played with the girl, little girl that lived about, she lived on the other side of the creek.
Mm-hmm.
They used to spend a lot of time at the creek.
Did they go swimming in the creek?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Were they supposed to?
No.
Why?
Because it's dirty.
Why?
It's dirty.
It's dirty. I think you said it smelled a bit before, didn't you? Do you have a town doctor?
There's Dr. Eichmann.
Dr. Eichmann?
Uh-huh. No.
It's not.
No.
What is his name?
It's Eichenbaum.
Eichenbaum, I see. Did you go to school in town?
Yes.
What was the name of the school?
I went to a little school.
Mm-hmm.
It was just in the neighborhood.
Just a neighborhood school?
It was just in my area.
I
It was
see.
just a little school.
Did you have a specific...
I didn't go very long.
You didn't go very long?
No.
You are literate? You can read and write?
I can read and write.
I see. All right, I'll believe you. You're looking at your house now, and I want you to tell me about your house. Can you describe it for me?
It's very dirty. It's supposed to be a whitewash.
Uh-huh.
It's supposed to be sparkly and pretty, but it's dirty.
Why is that?
Well, it's because of the factories.
Something in the air, you mean? Dust? Or gas?
Oh yes, lots of things in the air.
Well, you said it was supposed to be very white and whitewashed, and...
But it doesn't last.
What color is it
It's
then?
so dirty.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a yellowish, dirty.
Because the paint is discolored.
Yellowish, yes.
I
It's
see.
a yellowish, gold, dirty color.
Dirty color, all right. Do you have a newspaper in town?
Yes.
What's the name of it?
It's the Corning Breeze.
The Corning Breeze.
Newspaper.
I see. I would like you to go forward in time to the point that you said you were very ill.
I'm so sick.
Uh-huh. Then what
I
happens?
I don't want to be any sick anymore.
You don't want to be sick anymore?
No.
Then what happens?
I don't want to be here now.
You don't want to be here anymore?
Not now. I'm so sick.
All right. Then what happens?
Oh, I don't want to be here now. No, I don't want to. I'm so sick.
All right. Continue forward till you're no longer. No more discomfort now. All gone. And you're traveling forward in time. Can you look back? You've smiled. Why are you smiling? It feels so good?
Yes.
I see. All right, you're traveling forward in time.
I was so sick.
You were so sick there, yes. Can you see yourself looking backwards in time, looking from where you are now? Can you see yourself being sick there, being perhaps in bed or whatever?
Yes.
Can you describe what you see?
I was very sick.
Very sick.
I died.
You died?
Yes.
You said you were an old lady of 40 what?
I think I was 46.
46, an old lady.
Yes.
All right, travel forward in time then. And
I'm glad I'm not her anymore.
now, were you satisfied with her?
I was glad that it ended.
Okay, fine. Then feeling absolutely wonderful in mind, in spirit, in body, mentally, physically, in all possible ways, feeling just great. Very slowly then, you can awaken. Hello.
Hi.
Huh?
Hi.
How do you feel?
I feel good.
Feel good?
Mm-hmm.
Fine. You were tired originally when you laid on the couch here. How do you feel now?
Very relaxed.
Like
Very
you had
good.
a vacation?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Very
that's wonderful.
Very nice.
Would you like to ask her?
I hope we didn't bother you.
No, I didn't even know you were there.
Really?
No.
Emil, would you mind asking her if she's ever been to the place she mentioned?
Surely. Have you ever heard of the town of Corning, or have you ever been there to the town of Corning, Ohio?
No. Never.
Does the town of Corning, Ohio have any connection, as far as you know, to you in any way whatsoever?
In no way whatsoever.
No connection whatsoever?
No connection.
Do you ever remember reading a book or hearing about a play concerning Corning, Ohio?
Never.
Never?
Never.
Nothing at all in your mind that you know about this town?
No family members, no friends,
nothing.
no nothing.
Well, I think that's part of your answer.
I feel very optimistic, excited, like I'm about to solve some great mystery. There's Corning, and I'm on my way. I wonder how it'll match everything she described under hypnosis. Only time will tell. Wesley, I have some questions I want to ask about old Corning, if you don't mind.
Anything I can do to help?
Okay, remember I talked to you on the phone?
Yeah.
Is there a railroad depot here at Corning?
Yeah, next door here was a railroad depot.
What was it called?
Listen, here was the T&OC originally, and there was a Z&W on up the track, probably a quarter of a mile up the road.
What was the name again?
The Z&W.
What does that mean?
Zanesville and Western Railroad. I'll add a nickname. Some of the people called it the Zigzag and Wobble.
I see. What about, were there livery stables here in Corning?
Yeah, at one time. It was a couple of large ones. One over here on the other side of the old the bank building. It was supposed to have been the largest one around here at one time. They say there's times at night keeping 100 team of horses there.
Interesting. What about, is there a cemetery here in Corning?
Yes, there's several of them. Well, on the outskirts. The one up here at Millertown, probably the biggest and the best known.
Is the cemetery owned by the church, or is there a municipal?
It's a municipal. It's not affiliated with the church.
How close is that cemetery?
Oh, up over the West Hill here in the little town of Millertown, probably about a mile out to where the cemetery is.
How far back does it go in dates?
Well, I don't know exactly. Probably as old as the town.
Were there several schools here in Corning?
Yes, there was different schools. There was a Catholic school up here, and high school and a grade school here on the hill, East Hill here. Several schools through the years.
I see. Is there a river or a creek in Corning?
Yeah, one running right through the town, the center of the town down here. This is town's located on the Sunday Creek watershed, or what they call Sunday Creek.
Which way is that creek? Can you see it?
Well, yes, you can glance outside there and look right up the creek.
Were there factories or mines in this town?
Mining was your main employment here. Well, even when the town started, the mines bought the railroad, and together the village prospered just a short time after it was started. It was 8, maybe 9 pretty good-sized mines right here.
Was it very dusty or dirty right here around the 1900s?
Well, from what I know, I've never seen it, but I've had older people tell me that there's days when the mines was working and the steam engines was in the town here and running, and be a fog over the town like you couldn't see it sometimes.
Was there anybody named Eichenbaum in this town?
Yes, there was Samuel Eichenbaum. He
run the clothing and dry goods store here on the other end of this block. Up until last year, it was still in the Eichenbaum family.
Have you ever heard of any McDonald's?
Yes, the name's familiar with me from the fact that the first settlers in Monroe Township was John McDonald and James Dew, first known and recorded settlers in Monroe Township. It was when, it was probably in 1832 when he come here.
What about Kincaid? Does that ring a bell?
Don't ring no bell with me. The Kincaid doesn't know.
What about your friend over there?
There's Frank Wright sitting over there at the counter. If he could come over here, he'd answer us a few questions. Come over here, Frank. He's been around here a lot longer than I have. He'd know a little more about that.
Hello, Frank. Frank, was there a newspaper here?
There was a Corning paper here at one time, but I forget just exactly what the name of it was.
But it was here. Do either one of you know the name of that paper or what you heard of it?
I've been told of the paper here in the 1880s, and I've heard it called the Times, and I've heard it called the Breeze. I couldn't tell you much more about it because it was a short-term paper.
You know, I wanted to ask you about the buildings. Did they get yellowish, do you know?
Yes, they did. They got yellowish, especially when the mist was in and the steam engines was working. The steam would come down, the soot and sulfur from the smoke.
And that would make the white houses maybe turn yellow?
Yeah, it would,
Do you remember any of that, or is that too far?
Oh, I remember some of it. I remember especially when you had a lot of steam engines working here. At one time we had 2 steam engines working in the yard in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, 2 in the evening, and they was working continuously right around the clock, and there would be a lot of smoke and sulfur coming from this coal that was burning the steam engines.
Is that what you would say, Wes?
Yeah, that's pretty close to what I've been told and know of, yeah.
I appreciate the information, Frank. You've been helpful.
Yeah, if you excuse me, I've got to go to the store and get out of here so I can go home.
Okay. Hope to see you soon. Thanks again.
You're welcome, sir.
See you later, Frank. Thanks. Helping.
What do you think, Wes? Is there some information we can get from anyone else?
Yeah, there's a few questions there that you've asked. I believe if we went up to the barber shop and found Ray Latta, he'd probably be able to answer about any questions that you have left or enlighten you on about anything you want to know.
How long has he been here?
Oh, I don't know exactly how old he is. He's been here all his life. He's probably in his late 70s or 80s. And he's pretty clear-minded. He knows about anything.
How is that again?
He knows about anything that's happened around here. If anybody's got off the train in the last 50 years, he knows who it was.
That's great. Can we go now?
Yeah, we can take him, go up and see him. I imagine he's hanging around the barber shop.
Okay, then let's head out that way.
In between your 2 buildings gone, they have clothing store at one time and a confectionery in there. And then your Eichenbaum store there, that's Anthony Eichenbaum he was telling you about. He started the store there in 1880 something. The old drugstore building here, one of your older buildings there on Main Street. And in between that old store building over there was the Eichenbaums. Down here on the corner, this empty lot was the old Joyce department store, and right around the corner here is a barber shop. We're on the street right where the blacksmith shop and the livery stables was that he was asking about. And Ray Latta over here in the barber shop will be able to enlighten you more. Here is a friend of mine, Ray Latta. I'd like for you to meet and answer the questions that you need answered.
Hi, Ray. I was wondering, was there a town paper here that you remember?
The Corning Breeze.
A long time back, is that it?
Yeah, in the last century.
What about schools? Were there any schools here?
The first school was up on top of East Hill, called the Breeze School, in the woods up there.
Which way was that?
East, top of this East Hill, here at the top of it.
A big school or a small one?
No, just a small one-room country school.
Just one room?
One room, yeah.
Now tell me about that creek. Did children play in it?
No, they weren't supposed to on account of the sulfur water which came out of the mines.
In other words, it was bad to play in
Yeah.
that water. What about a family named McDonald?
They lived up above town here on a big farm, the McDonald family.
Interesting. Think they lived here around the late 1800s?
Well, they could have lived here then before my time, but the McDonald's up north of town here about 3 miles.
I see. Do you remember any of their names?
No, I don't.
What about, was there a John McDonald or a Jean McDonald? Might have had a daughter?
I don't remember their first names. They've been dead for years.
How long have you lived here?
80 years, last August.
So you've seen a lot of this town.
Seen it come and go.
Okay, Ray. Thank you very much for the time.
Pleasure.
Wes, can we walk to the livery stable?
I believe we can go up and look and see.
Thank you very much.
Here we are headed on up towards the brick building up here, which used to be the livery stable that you was mentioning earlier. Been a Ford dealership at one time. Now it's an aluminum plant. It was a wooden structure at the time. It was a livery stable.
I hope I get to the cemetery before it gets too dark. Good. So far, everything fits. The school, the paper, the creek, even the zigzag. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine? I mean, if I can find something of Jean McDonald actually having lived before, that would be it. There it is. McDonald tombstone. And it was a child. And there's John McDonald, her husband's name. I just can't wait to get back. There's so much of this that checks out. It all seems too much just to be a coincidence. Well, Doc, I found enough to prove to me that something exists after death. I mean, how do you account for the fact that she knew the railroad's name, the newspaper, even where it was located? There's no way she could have known. Emil, what about you?
I've checked her out too, and as you said, I even checked her with hypnosis as well. There was not a single thing anywhere that I could come up with where she had had any connection with the town of Corning, Ohio, in any way whatsoever, either consciously or unconsciously.
She identified those pictures.
Yes, she did. And to a point that was quite amazing. She even identified things, as you saw, that even the people in town didn't know of who were alive today.
It really makes a believer of you. What's next?
Emil, is it possible to progress a person into his own future?
Well, let's say it's possible to progress somebody forward into a future. Whether it is going to be the future is something else. There is a past, because it's history, but there are unlimited futures to get into. Could it be your future is something else.
I really would like to try. I really would.
Well, it's an idea for an experiment.
Be careful. You might come up with something you weren't expecting.
Well, that's a point, too. Supposing we go forward in so-called time and we come across your death, for example. How are you going to feel about that?
I'm willing to try. Please.
Yes, I think when we're finished, let's have an experiment. Are you absolutely sure this is what you really want? You know you could progress yourself forward into what appears to you to be your own death. Now, that frightens the heck out of a lot of people. Now, are you absolutely sure this is what you want?
I am sure. I've done a lot of searching. I feel confident that I want to. Yes,
All right? As long as you're absolutely sure, we'll go ahead. Then why don't you relax yourself now nice and easily from the top of your head down to the tips of your toes. Relax yourself very, very deeply. Let your mind drift and wander along, and as I talk to you and your eyes grow heavy, close your eyes. Now, let your mind wander forward into the future, anywhere at all in the future that stands out clearly in your mind.
We all fear death because it is the unknown. But if I could look at it, just get close to it, try to understand it more, maybe then the fear would vanish.